So level streaming in Unreal is actually really, really simple. We're going to first make a very basic blank level that's going to act as our shell. That's kind of, you always have something called a persistent level. We always had a persistent level in Hunted, we had one persistent level per chapter in our game. We had 5 chapters, and we had 5 persistent levels. You could, in theory, just have one persistent level for your entire game, or you could have 30 persistent levels. The key is that your persistent level really doesn't have much in it. The idea behind a persistent level is that it takes up as little memory as possible. That's why we're not even going to use the default here. We're going to use the empty level. And so I'm going to just make the empty level and then save this guy. Oh, I already have some. Haha. I'm going to make a new folder here. I'm going to name this one persistent level. And that's kind of all you're going to do for now. Let's go back to our other levels here. I'm going to open up this map here. This map, which is one of the levels I made, looks very similar to this other map. The only difference being that this one has like 3 enemies in it. It seems to want to like pop up in the air. I don't really know what that is. I think there's some interpenetration going on here. Sure. So I want to set it up so that when the level is finished, that it loads the second one. So I have these 2 maps, here and here. And they're all pretty close. But if I want to add them all together, then I open up the persistent level that I created earlier. And the dialog that you're going to be working with is under the window here, under levels. And this is basically just a really simple dialog that shows you the relationship you have between all your streaming levels in the game. So right now I only have 1 level loaded and 1 level visible. But I can add more levels to this list. So I go to the level button here, and you can either make a new level here from this dialog, or you can just add any other level that you had before. So I can go here, I can add a level, I can add the first level that I have here. And notice it already has it as a child of the persistent level here. And if I hide and unhide this guy here, notice what actually shows up and disappears. It is WWF. I don't know what they're doing over there. So I can save. And I can play my persistent level. What do we want to do here? Right. So there's my level that I actually have in the scene with a player start in it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the second level that I had as well. So I'm going to go here, add example map 2. So notice that I can, right now, actually both levels are loaded. Let me just go here and show you that level 2, I'm going to actually move some of these cubes out of the way. Notice that they look like they're overlapping, right? So if I hide level 1, this is what level 2 looks like. If I hide level 2, this is what level 1 looks like now. Okay? They're both existing at the same time. So this is something you have to keep in mind of how you want to choose how these levels are interacting with one another. And the way that I want to have these levels interact with one another is that I want them to only be loaded when I beat the previous one. Okay. If I set this up here, so the other thing that you need to keep in mind is that your player start that is used to control where your player is spawned in, it needs to be in the persistent level. This guy right here is a player start that came in with the persistent level. And notice that he's kind of high up in the air. And if I hide, oops, I didn't actually make him in persistent level. He was actually already in the example map 2. I'm going to delete this here. So I actually just removed all the player starts. So there, it just starts where the camera is, which is not good. The key is that this persistent level, even though it has nothing inside of it, like you actually have no geometry inside here. If I just show, there's actually nothing in here. What we want to do is we want to take a player start and we want to actually move it into the persistent level. So in each of your levels, you should have, let's see, one of these guys. There's my guy. I'm actually going to hide this guy for now. Let's just add a player start. And keep in mind that as you're navigating through this, the level that you have double-clicked is the current active level. That's the level that you're going to be adding actors to. So if I were to go in here and say, just add a bunch of, like let's just say I add some boxes into here, and I duplicate them like so. I just added them to level 1. They're only inside level 1. Right? So if I hide level 2, they're there. If I hide level 1, they're there. So just to show you how the workflow goes, you click on a level. Let's say I'm going to add a player start to this, like so. But the problem is this is in the wrong level. I don't have a player start for level 2. So I actually need to just move this guy into the persistent level. So I'm going to get him positioned where I kind of want him. This is acting funky because he's actually spawning and then the level isn't loaded. Click on the actor that you want. Click on the level that you want to move him to. And select the Move Selected Actors to Level. And now, if I hide both, the persistent level basically just has a player start and nothing else inside of it. Okay. Cool. So it's by default loading the first level for me. But what I can do is I can set up the behavior, which this is perfect. So I have one enemy to kill in here. And I can set up the behavior to say, hey, when the level is done, it's actually already doing it. It's already doing it because I already scripted the behavior ahead of time to load this. I'll just delete that behavior and I'll show you guys how to set this up. Really? I think it just lost some of my blueprints. Oh, right. Okay. Now I remember. So the behavior for setting up the streaming levels we're going to do in the game state. So let's set it up. We're going to set it up so that you basically start on a blank level. And I'm just going to quickly delete all of this. Hey, you're here. It's okay. So let's play. So I just removed all the stuff that I had done earlier so that I have basically a blank nothing in the persistent level. And I can even just add a box. Where's my box? And I can add a light here. Okay. So there's my persistent level. It has me and I'm falling through the ground with no geometry to hold it, right? So that just proves that I'm not loading anything else right now because I just deleted all that stuff. And I'm going to control the streaming behavior through the game state, just to show you guys that this blueprint that we have for game state will be kept between levels. Right now, if you play, in the top left it says I have 0 enemies left to kill and I have 3 balls left to shoot. I can change that so that right before I find all the enemies that I want to kill, which is what we did in class last week, which was get all actors of class and set the enemies left. If you want to have it load a level, you type load level, and there's a special variant of it, which is called load stream level. And it's really simple. All you do is type in the name of a level you want to load, whether you want that thing to be made visible after it's been loaded. A lot of times what you'll do is you'll load a level ahead of time, but not make it visible yet because you don't want the player to see it, or maybe you don't want any of the actors in that level to start executing their blueprint. But in my case, I want this level to become visible right away, and block on load, which will mean that this wire will not fire until the level has finished loading. Because it's the very first level that I'm making, it's really important that this is true, otherwise I will potentially fall to the ground. So now that I've played, in the top left it said I have 1 enemy left to kill and 3 balls left. And that cube right in the center there, that's in my persistent level. So the next thing I can do is set it up so that when I've killed all the enemies, so in here, this is the game state. This is what we did last week, by the way. This is how many enemies we have left. After I figured out that I've destroyed all the enemies, what I can do is see, I can compare by doing a branch. I can get the number of enemies left. I can see if it's less than or equal to 0. And if it is, then that means that I've destroyed all the enemies in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to unload level 1 and load level 2. So I just call unload stream level. I'm going to unload example map, which is the first level. And I'm going to load example map, what did I call it? Example map 2. Example map underscore 2. Make that visible and make it block. So after I've killed all the enemies, it's going to unload the current one and load the next one. Okay. I'm going to cheat here. So a few things happened. One, the old level unloaded and the new one loaded, but the balls that I spawned stayed there, and in the top left, the number of enemies I have left to kill is negative. So when you're loading levels this way, you actually have to do a little bit of cleanup here. You have to reinitialize some of the behavior in your game. So like right here, this is what I use to find how many enemies are left. Right after I've finished loading a level, I need to do the same behavior. So I'm going to call a custom event, and I'm going to call this guy restart level, and do that. And then here, after I'm done, I'm just going to call restart level, which will make it so that after I've beaten all the enemies, it will actually reset the number of enemies left to kill, so now it's 3 again in the top left. And I can also destroy all the existing balls in the game. So you can do get all actors of class. I can just select my ball here. I think I had like, what's it called? PP ball split. I have a version of the ball that's a split ball. So I can do this. I'm actually going to do this down here. After I've restarted the level, I'm also going to do this, like so. So the idea is that I kill all the enemies, and all the balls that I've spawned, those are not split balls, those are regular balls. I need to do both. I need to do this twice. We're going to destroy all the split balls, and I happen to know that there's also a physics ball, like that. Those are not physics balls either. Those are, what are those guys? Physics ball, BP. Oh, I need to destroy them actually. So we're going to just destroy all the balls that are in the level. like so. And we're going to do the same thing with all the split balls as well. I'm going to move all this out a little bit here. So this is actually going through and getting all the existing balls. Over each one of these guys is going to destroy them, and then it's going to get all the physics balls, go over each one of these guys, destroy them as well, and then finally count all the enemies that are in the level. One more time. What did I do? Pending kill. Right. That's one. Let's just see if this works here. I only have one ball left to fire. There's all the enemies that are left. And then, what else is left here? Ah, this needs to happen here. Off the completed loop, instead of doing it per loop body, after the loop is done, then you move on to the next step here. And there all the balls are gone. And the number of balls, or number of enemies I have left to kill is 3. And after all the enemies are dead, then nothing else. There's no more levels to load after that. And what we can also do is, after it's restarted the level, we can reset the number of balls left too. So we can just set this guy to 3. And so if I were to fire and use my last ball to kill the enemy, the number of balls I have left in the top left gets reset too.